It's new high resolution.
Come on, I want to see if this is working.
Yeah, yeah, that was awesome. I wonder if that's the new one.
Cool.
Yeah, right.
Snapping that I thought.
Right.
Do the left side.
Okay, there it is.
They got speed on that? That's kind of impressive. System, display.
Use a
Yeah.
checkbox in your displays.
Yeah, there you go.
Okay, so we have this, I feel like everyone's got like some sort of mapping thing, but so I literally started on this path of, we had this thing written in Backbone before, and we're converting over to Angular, and we had integrating with all the mapping JavaScript stuff. So we're using Angular, and I started going like, I need to write a directive for this. I'm like, wait, time out. Like, how does Google not already have a directive for their own? Lo and behold, they do. Imagine that. So I kind of dove into the docs, and it's so I can't remember.
That's an angry.
Is this not?
I don't know.
No, this.
That's one that.
Yeah, I think this is the one. So this is odd. Yes, they have it. And so this is kind of what I dove into, and some of the things that I liked, and because you have to load up a ton of JavaScript first to kind of get this stuff kicked off, and so they have kind of a resolve mechanism that they tell you to kind of go to kind of kick off kind of like the things that you need. In this case, like, so they tell you to set it up like this. Well, through the provider, where it's like it loads the libraries when you actually need bigger.
You guys would like to see?
Well, let's see.
I'm old and I'm in front of it.
You guys see
I think there's a present mode.
This
what is that?
Under view.
view. So down at the bottom.
Presentation, it's like really bad.
Whoa.
So this is what. All right, don't. I'm just lost now. So basically, you set up a controller. There's like 3 libraries that you have to kind of load on start. You load the single page app of Angular. But this is how you pull in kind of the API libraries that you need. In this case, I mean, honestly, like, I'll just go to that one. Geometry, visualization, we probably need that one, but definitely. So this is kind of loading up all the libraries you need. You pass your key in, the version you want, and when this thing actually runs, when you run this controller, it's doing this fetching. There's some funkiness that I found out with like the namespacing, because it's like trying to go backwards compatible like with some other versions. So you have to do like this funky namespacing. So you have to, when you actually try to get the dependencies for this, you have to list out like these namespace, and then because this is the name you want, you're attaching it to, which is not compatible with, I guess, older versions. Like that particular name, so you have to kind of set it up here. That was kind of the docs, which I found like that sucked. And then you can kind of basically set up a promise, and in this case, we basically you're loading up kind of like all the mapping libraries, and then you can use them once they're loaded. That's kind of what this whole setup does. This is all based on docs. What I've kind of noticed, and we'll do a lot of this, which is really long. I'll show you what it looks like. This is our site, but we'll get to it. If anyone knows the reference, that's awesome.
It's from Archer.
Who's watching it?
Oh, the story?
Archer.
I
So,
wasn't sure. What you
and then that. So let's look at the HTML things. Yeah, it's shift what?
hit shift.
Oh, now we can just do that. Oh, nice.
What do you know shift shift?
Double shift works.
Double shift is awesome.
I did not know that.
Yeah, double shift and then it searches everything. So you can search everything.
I didn't
Every.
Without like commanding.
Shift shift. And then it does everything. Yeah. You can search class names, file names. and
So
everything.
Settings.
in our case, it was our case is a fairly simple kind of setup for this, but this was this is kind of all we needed for this. You're basically, you're setting up map center, zoom, drag the false. Like there's a ton of other options, and it's pretty well documented. It's like as far as like all the options you give. In our case, we set up a map marker, and then the little pop-up window when you click on the marker. That's kind of free. Super simple. Assuming I'm doing this all correctly. The one other person.
And it looks. So I started working with this yesterday.
I got people.
This looks great. So what I did was, so I have to place a bunch of markers. So I use UI GMAP markers.
Oh, okay, so you embed them.
Does that have like a repeat property or something in it?
No, you don't have to do a repeat. It's there so that you don't have to do it.
Okay.
No, but yeah, so like, does it provide a repeat, like, property? Or like,
I can show it to you.
yeah, I mean, it's.
I can show when you're done. I can show that.
So back to the controller. Like a lot of those values are basically set up in scope. Right? So all the map properties are here, the coordinates are here. And so you have center, zoom, your coordinate properties, and then for us, there's other options you can pass in, but this is for the marker itself. Like, click on it. Let's display. And this is basically the HTML that you want to have it. Also click on it. So that's it. It's quite easy. Cool. That's it. Looks good.
Virtual. Well, you can change the. What you have to do on Meetup is just drag the thing that will update the route.
Where does it travel?
Drag equals
It's like 2 blocks over.
Yeah.
Really?
Well, it already does. Yeah.
Or does it have that?
Yeah.
That's the first I've heard about that. Yeah, that's cool. Welcome. We'll fix it.
Just to. Actually, wasn't planning on showing anything today, so again, I'm completely unprepared as usual.
But Will insisted.
Just busting your balls now.
I'm always worried that I got porn up or something there, so.
It's always exciting when Dale plugs in the
So first I'll show you a little bit about what I'm trying to do. So I'm building a site that helps real estate agents. Well, for one thing, I just quit my job. So,
Oh,
and, so I had this brilliant idea that I'm going to build a website that's going to help real estate agents find brokers. And I have something broken. Maybe. Well, I'm connected. Okay, so the idea was to help brokers find real estate agents. I got a bug here for some. Look at that. Did it just crash? Oh.
App crashed.
Yeah, no doubt, right? I think I just Totally cool. All right. So, if I go to my website, I want to know what brokers are in the area. I just started this yesterday, so it's not completely looking at. But this is these are where the 4 largest real estate brokerage companies are in the Twin Cities. It's like the guy that wrote the couple of names. The way that I render that, shift. I got to render that. File. Okay. Yeah, so the way we go into presentation mode here. So the way I render that whole map is with all the markers is with this bit of markup. So I say that that's the map there, and then there's the markers directive that gives you plural. Tell it what model, what to use for a key, and a couple of other things, and it renders all of them, and then data updates it and all that stuff. So there's really, it's like super easy.
Even if they're outside the viewport, they're still there.
Yeah.
How do you determine what your like center is or
What my zoom level is? Well,
or your center?
It's got map zoom and map center up there.
yeah. Well, I've also got this fit, which I think is really cool. So let me change this to false and show you what that does, because I think that's the most awesome part. At least for what I'm working on. So my default zoom level is this, right? So if I zoom back in, it should show me my markers. So I'm on St. Paul because that's where I'm at. And
It's like we're not going to fit anywhere.
The mail, does it show them at a certain zoom level?
I forgot where you're even at. I wouldn't think changing that to false would affect the behavior, but just to show you the basic difference. So now it shows that I'm in St. Paul, I'm in St. Paul, it's at the zoom level that I had set. If I come back here and change fit to true, I think this is pretty cool. What it does is now, based on where all my markers are, it just fits them all into the map. So it
And
sets
it
your
prorates a zoom level for you?
yeah, so it does the zoom level enough so that everything fits in the map. I
So
thought
if
that
you
was
start zooming out, then
Yeah.
do the markers disappear?
No, they shouldn't. I don't know what was
They
going
stay
on.
there. Okay.
Apparently, if you set false, it means don't enter anything.
It's like markers on there.
Yeah, render markers, true or false. Yeah, I don't know what else. I mean, that's something that I like. I thought that was pretty cool. Although in this model, I haven't figured out how to do the boxes, the window that comes up.
That's that other directive. Yeah.
Yeah, so
Like if you click on the thing.
right, if I click on the thing, there's a way to do it.
Well, yeah, yours is probably gonna be a little trickier.
There's a way to do it, but I don't really.
Well, what's the reference file for this? What do you have the reference for the line? What's that? It's like third party, what's the reference? What do
It's
you have to add to your JS?
Oh, the libraries you have to
Line,
add.
what do you have to do? Show that?
Oh, well, in this case, what did I have to include? I think I just had to include the just the maps API. I didn't actually go through the async load. Like the documentation says go through all this async load, and I don't know. I screw shit up all the time, so I didn't want to. I want to do one thing at a time, and I know that if I load my script the way it is, then that'll be fine. So I didn't actually go through the async loading side of it. So what I had to include from Google was that's I don't remember. Yeah, this is the maps API. I think that's just for geodecoding, isn't it? And then
Yeah, there's like a standard Google Maps library that you
yeah,
have to put
so
in
this
there.
is it. So just the standard Google Maps. Sorry. So whatever the standard Google Maps thing here is all I had to include. And then it just worked. So and then of course this is loading over there. So this is coming from Maps. Yeah.
Oh.
Google APIs. And then locally I had to use the Angular Google Maps, Angular Google Maps directive. So that was from Angular UI. That's it. So
Yeah, it's like Angular Google Maps JS.
yeah.
There was Lodash. I thought Lodash is one of them too.
Yeah, I was using Lodash for something.
It's got it down there.
So yeah. I don't know. That's pretty cool. Now, every single one of you people knows real estate. So what you're going to do, you're going to do me a favor for this valuable information I have provided you. You're going to tell them to go to rebrokerlist.com. So I quit my job on the 31st. My first day unemployed was the 1st. And I'm going live with the site in 3 days.
Just hammering it.
So I'm a little panicked. But no, it's cool. I mean, this is supposed to help. So have them come here and sign up.
What does it do?
So it's what will happen in the end is they'll come to the site. There's basically two things that happen in your career. I guess as a programmer or as a real estate agent. You quit your job for basically two reasons, right? Professional growth, or you're irritated with somebody at work. You don't like your manager, you don't like your boss, you don't like somebody like that, right? Or you want to go learn some more. So as a real estate agent, this happens too, right? You want to learn some more. Maybe you're doing $6 million a year in sales. You want to get to $12 million a year in sales. Right? How do you do that? Well, you go work with people who know how to do $12 million in sales. So when you want to go do that, how do you find your broker? It's really hard. Who can help you move to the next level, or who can help you move away from the guy you don't like working with? So the site's really intended to help you.
Professional network.
Cool.
Yeah, it puts them in contact with. So, for example, when you do $6 million in sales, you got like 100 brokers calling you every year, trying to get you to come to work for them. How do you compare them? How do you know is this broker really doing the volume that they say they're doing, et cetera, et cetera? Do they have people? Are they like everybody Keller Williams. So are they with Keller Williams, where they've got like 300 agents who are doing no sales and like 10 agents who are doing $1 million, right? Or what are they doing? So it's kind of like the analysis to figure out like, how do I compare brokers to other brokers? So, yeah.
Pretty cool, Dale.
No, very cool.
You got 3 days left.
I'm so freaked out. I didn't realize it said 3 days now.
Hammer at it,
Have
dude.
an emergency hack night.
That's right. There might be a meetup
Yeah.
on Angular at that where it's like
We'll watch
Dale's panicking. Come, we don't watch it.
Is there anyone else that like to let him talk? We will get started.
What's gonna happen?
Mouse over, dude, there's like an eye top left.
Okay, so what John and I are talking about is Angular in 2015. We're mainly going to be focusing on, or what we focused on in our research was looking at what's coming down the pipeline, what does 2.0 mean, what does it mean for us developers who are developing 1X applications, and kind of what can we expect and what's Google's going to be in the future moving forward. So.
And we're going to talk a little too about some of the key point changes that are coming in Angular 2.0, along with we're just going to go over like the future of 1X and basically overview.
Yeah, some of the motivations that we've heard them talk about and kind of what their intention is with 2.0 and why there's such destructive change between the 1 dot and 2 dot.
Quite a bit of controversy over starting from scratch.
Yeah, Angular 1.3, what is going on? I think there's a lot of concern in the community that we're developing apps that are soon going to be unmigratable or unusable with such a destructive change happening. We were happy to find that, or to understand that Google's heavily invested in the 1 dot branch. They've got over 1,600 apps currently internally going on 1.2 and 1.3. So besides caring about us as developers, they've got their own skin in the game. So I think that speaks volumes to them keeping it around for some time to come. Also, in order to make sure that there is priority in 1 dot and not just 2 dot, the 2 teams have been divided. So there's an explicit 1.3 team and explicit 2.0 team. So development will continue on both halves.
And the project lead, Brad, says that they plan to support it for at least 1 to 2 years. And given that it's an open source framework, it could go even longer based on community efforts and other stuff like that.
So that was reassuring to me, at least, that there is some sort of plan as far as maintaining this. And I know, John, you had said that post 2.0 release, I believe they're going to be starting to work on what the migration path is going to be. Hopefully it'll take less than 1.5
Yeah,
years.
so like straight from the blog at angular.org, they said that they're going to wait till 2.0 is finished to start a migration path, so they can like have a straight set way to go from 1X to 2. But they said no promises, so we'll see where it goes.
We're kidding with the promises.
Yeah. Nice, dude. Gotta throw that in there. Yeah, and they're not really sure, like, they actually just started development on it. Like, so we found out they've been planning it like all year. So yeah, they just started actually developing it with 2X in like October.
People off though? There's just so much hate for them.
That's
I think it's just the stick in the mud. It's like the negative voices sometimes
think-
get
Don't give it
bored.
away, don't give it away.
I'm just talking about motivation wise.
Yeah.
I think we'll get into it deeper, but in order to accomplish what they want to accomplish, it kind of needs to happen. You know what I mean? You can't put wings on a car and hold a plane. It's just it's a car with wings. So, you know what I mean? So if you're trying to go a different avenue, you have to kind of reinvent the wheel. So that brings us to the new guy in town. We look to,
So
Actually,
here's
I got
some,
a question there. So they're doing Angular 1.4, right? And the stuff going in, is like router going into 1.3?
Yep, so we didn't touch on that in the last slide, but the router for 2.0 is being backported to the 1.x branch.
yes, including 1.3. So
Oh, really? Okay. I was just looking at the 1.4 planning docs and design docs, and they were all under drive.
Yep,
So I'm sure if the router was going.
yeah, Eisenberg, the guy that wrote the router Eisenberg, he's ready to just throw it all the way back to 1.3.
He quit though.
Yeah, he quit the team,
Yeah.
so he's moving on.
And I was using his, like, I used Durandal before I used Angular,
Oh,
which
yeah?
is the knockout based thing, and he's the one that wrote Durandal.
Yeah, that's interesting. So now he's going back to Durandal
Yeah.
now.
But Durandal's router, I mean, it was pretty nice. The Durandal framework itself was really held back by knockout, not really by his efforts, so
Sure.
it's interesting to see.
Where he takes it, right?
It has
Yeah.
a lot of like good structure, but less flexible at the same time.
Yeah, I was just thinking about that too. It is curious to see what, so I did read he had like an open letter talking about some of the issues he had with Google, and that it wasn't necessarily with Google, but more he wanted to follow his framework and do bigger and better things. So I will be interested to see what
Yeah,
he comes up with.
Actually, this link right here, this Eisenberg effect, highly recommend watching the videos on there. It's some really good content.
Yeah, really interesting read. Also from a guy who was up until very recently working directly with the Google team, but is not a Google employee, so has no skin in the game as far as telling how it is if something's wrong. He's not afraid to show it to you. So
Yeah, so now we'll just get into like the meat of like what's coming for 2.0, and we'll get to like some of the familiar stuff we're all familiar with that they're killing off, and basically like the 1x stuff that we all come to know is like going away. So first of all, controllers. If any of you have done any viewing into 2.0, they're killing off controllers, the directed definition object scope, Angular module, and JQ Lite. They're gonna like the functionality. You'll still be able to like work with the same type. It's just going to be in a different context. So another key point is DOM wrappers, ng-click, ng-model. Those are all going away. There was a video from NG Europe with Igor, basically breaking down what 2.0 is going to be, and he said like, you know, modern browsers have evolved, so has the DOM. So basically, they can just deal with the raw DOM instead of wrapping ng-click, ng-model, and stuff like that.
it's a very cool video. Check it out.
Yeah, the NG Europe videos were pretty cool.
So going back to Eisenberg, did a lot of reading, watched some of his talks, and tried to find what the motivations were for, like you were saying, why such an intense rewrite for a 1. to 2. Version change. And a couple of the reasons he pointed out were performance, changing web, mobile, ease of use for development. I'm going to break into each of those. One thing to understand that I fully didn't understand was the origins of Angular and kind of what assumptions that were made at the beginning and what it was intended to be used for. It's intended to be used for designers, not necessarily developers. Developers have kind of grabbed the reins and taken a different direction that I don't think it initially was intended for. And things like template and data binding need to be updated in a way that is kind of causing some destruction, some of the animosity towards the 2.0. And back to John's point, the web has changed a lot in the past 5 years. JavaScript's faster, DOM's faster, ES6, I've been reading a lot about in the past couple of days. Soon to be standardized, which standards allow stuff to JavaScript. Classes, lambdas, modules, generators, having that available in JavaScript is really exciting. what that's going to bring to front-end development, what that's going to change. So it's coming down the pipeline. And then having with the ES6 a standardized module system, which Angular 1X does not have, will also open things up and make it more clear and concise. Mobile, again, 5 years ago, the mobile game was very much different. It was not everybody and their mother did not have a tablet. It wasn't so much traffic wasn't driven purely by mobile stuff. And things that were missing were proper routing, support for touch animations, and caching for more ease of mobile use. Again, to your point, the router is being backported to Angular 1.3.
Yeah, I kind of feel like this is one of the bigger bullet points in the list because they're actually calling Angular 2 the mobile first framework, but you can still use it for desktop. But what they're thinking is like more people today are using mobile devices than ever. So they're going to focus on that stuff first while paying attention to the desktop. But yeah, like Joel was saying, when Angular 1X was started 5 years ago, mobile devices were they were present but sparse, and now it's way up in the field. It's completely changed. So that's one of the bigger reasons why they decided to go with rewriting from the ground up instead of just backporting and continuing to work on 1X.
Well, again, we were looking at today what the initial iPhone 1 came out a little over 8 years ago. So I'm going to give that in scope of what's changed in that amount of time. There's been quite a bit of change. And what direction are we heading in? If we kept, and one point that was brought up in the reading that I did was, without these changes, is Angular going to stay relevant? Can we keep the old style and continue into a space where it's going to survive 5 more years?
Yeah, I thought this was kind of cool. Like when Angular first started, there weren't any controllers or directives. So it's like they saw a good thing and added to it. So it's like it wasn't fully thought out, and now they're basically going from that route and fully thinking about it instead of just plugging things into it left, right, left, right.
I think that's why so much research was done up front, profiling and finding out what the weaknesses were for 1.x, and then doing all the development as it should be done. Ease of use. You guys are all familiar with the awesome graph for how Django makes us feel over time. I've definitely been very far through this roller coaster ride. And like John was just saying, it didn't initially have directives, didn't initially have controllers, and those things were bolted on after the fact. And it just can't be done in a way that, designed in a way that if that was the initial intent, it's kind of the direction of taking it.
Yeah, the English thing basically wants this graph to go away. So.
And they want more.
They want the ease of use to be another key point in their framework instead of just coming up with a conference.
Because we can all relate to that. I mean, when we first took a look at Angular, I mean, at least myself personally, when I first stared at a directive and read through like, what is a directive and how is this going to work for me, was back down here. I mean, then you start trying to figure it out. So the fact that they're making that important, that it's easier for developers, more importantly, than designers, of course, that it's easy for us to use and intuitive. AdScript. So
The core of Angular 2.0.
AdScript is the core of Angular 2.0, and my first thought was, what is AdScript? So what we know is AdScript is the language that Angular 2.0 is being written in. This is TypeScript syntax as a superset of ActiveScript 6, ES6. Which still, to my knowledge, has not been standardized yet. We still have some time on that. Yeah. Still, ES5 is the last one. One thing that this will allow is typing, which does bring up a lot of debate as far as typing in this avenue. It's completely optional. It can be handled by their library or a library of your choice. Roll your own. You got optional runtime verification. All these, but it gives you flexibility to create your own types
Yeah, it's tight.
Yeah. Ping them, you can get more information about that. And stuff that's not available right now. A couple of things to note that you do not have to write in that script. You can write in ES5, ES6, CoffeeScript, which is what we use here. Not to say that we won't migrate that way at some point, but the initial reading and looking at the AppScript code, it looks kind of crazy. It looks a little intense, but the feeling that I got from where they're coming from is by no means do you have to use it, but if you're looking for the highest performance out of your Angular app, this is what they want. You have the most power. And also for Google employees, it compiles in Dart, so they can be super pumped about that.
That's like one of the requirements. That was like the first requirement.
Yeah, which Rob brings up a good point that Google does kind of tied to this Dart project, right? And will this scare off people from helping with ads cross compile to JS and Dart? Is that going to be beneficial to them or not?
All right, so yeah, here's just like a high level comparison of some of the differences.
You guys see that in the back?
Like you guys don't have to read the entire thing. I'll just point out a few key points. So like we're talking about the NG controller, 2.0 gone. NG click, it's gonna look more like this, like the raw DOM. So we got these buttons right here, and stuff is wrapped in they got these
The value, yeah.
parameters wrapped
No more
in brackets.
engine model.
It looks a lot different than what we're all used to, but it's actually not that bad.
It's all valid HTML. It looks strange. It looks like someone ate code and puked on HTML. That's what we got. So
Yeah, so they're sticking with
So-
the HTML-driven framework.
This
Nice.
though, going back on this with NG controller, so one of the things you can do is you can scope, different parts of the page, the different views and all that stuff, especially with URL, right? You can kind of do things like that. How does that, because I mean, in Vita, how that works in Angular 2, how are you going to divide up, scope and all these things that we're familiar with is going away. So how do I say where things are coming from?
Can you maybe show the script of this? How do you format to do with
Are you talking about the actual JavaScript?
Yeah.
We don't have any in our conversation here, but that we do have the links that have, like, this is basically from NG Europe. This is Igor's presentation on what the differences were. So we can throw out a link, and I definitely recommend going through. It's like a 20-minute video. Igor just like breaking all this down. Great way to get like a deep dive.
to answer your question, Gail, I'm not sure on the HTML end how you would chop that up and do a separation of priorities. I know the feeling that I got is the component aspect of it is supposed to replace that, so that might be built into theirs, because the component's going to be a marrying of the template and the controller. So I imagine that's what it's going to be. But I haven't done it that.
Oh, right, that makes sense. That's kind of
That's the idea, right? The controller's not completely going away in the sense of like killing room 4, dramatic controller, Outback, not happening. Controller's hanging around. It's just it's just taking on, it's taking on a new form. And so here's just some of that syntax real quick that you saw on this bottom slide down here for those who couldn't see that. And a lot of this, where this is coming from is web components. Prior to web components, frameworks like Angular have a certain set of HTML components that they expect, and they know their behavior. They're very standardized. But now with that, we can now start creating our own custom components, and we need some way to communicate, is this an attribute? Is this an event? Is this an expression? And so this is allowing us to do that in a little easier way. It gives us a little wonkier HTML, but it'll personally take a little getting used to, but I think
The thing is between these, like, what's the difference between ng click and, parentheses click?
This NG clicks just a DOM wrapper, so it's just a different way to interact with the DOM.
What is that?
it's basically the same thing with the ng removed, defined as an event.
So it's more of event based.
So now once it's wrapped in the parens, we know exactly what it is.
Okay,
So
that makes more sense.
even if it was called, Zach event or Zach something else, it wouldn't need to know what it is because it's wrapped in parens, it's an event, and knows how to handle it.
Is that Angular or is that part of the next HTML version? Like, what is that?
That's part of Angular.
Right.
Well, I think it's
So part of
isn't
the
the
framework.
syntax coming from the web components changes.
There's a
Could be right
GitHub
there.
issue, number 133 on the Angular. GitHub branch, but it basically is like a 3-month discussion. on
I actually did look at that. It's really
really insightful if you want to know why they're making these changes as far as template is concerned. You're getting everybody's opinion, all the core contributors plus the community kind of going over. You discussing right now, you can put your input and say, I don't like this. We should do this instead, and you'll probably get feedback from somebody.
yeah. I'll definitely second that. I did glance at that conversation. It is very interesting. Back to your point, why people are upset. A lot of it is this. A lot of it is these syntax changes that are happening. And I feel like they're doing a decent job, at least in that certain aspect of saying, okay, we understand you guys don't like it. What would be better for you guys? And actually in this article, Eisenberg does offer up a possible alternate solution, but a lot of it's still up in the air. And with any of these things, to make a point, it's all still up in the air. And as part of the community, we can, like you're saying, go make your opinions known. If you don't like a part of something that we're showing you that's possibly coming down the pipeline, like John was saying, they're only a couple months into development. There's still quite much more than 3 days to go, as Dale Scott. And so we can, as part of the community, we can say, this makes sense to us, or this really doesn't make sense to us. We'd like to see it this way.
So a question on that. What can appear between the parentheses is an event? Is that a
Click, change.
finite list of events, or can I name that?
You can name anything. I think that's kind of the
And then I register a foo event.
yeah, that's the route they're going down, because they no longer, like you're saying, they know a click. They don't know a foo. You know what I mean? But once you wrap it in the parens, they know it's an event now, and they can treat it as such.
And so I can have a foo, and then I just somehow find a foo event. And that's how I control it.
So it's interesting to think about. I mean, we're coming into a spot where we haven't been before. We don't know how to handle it, and this is their attempt at remedying that. And I think it's a good first pass. I think community involvement may refine it down to something that's a little more palatable. But I think their head's in the right spot. It looks a little ugly, but
Yeah, Eisenberg left.
So,
recommendations on it.
You mentioned we should get involved if we want to discuss this, and there was the reference to the GitHub link, and maybe you have some other ideas. What do you think is the best place, form, whatever, to,
yeah, I'd say GitHub.
and a particular link that this other.
I just tweeted it out. I can tweet it out from Angular a minute too.
Thanks, dude.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, I'll make that available. Yeah, does anybody else have any suggestions other than GitHub would be my top spot for looking at these repos and making comments?
They actually have all the Angular 2.0 design documents on a public Google Doc, and you can leave suggestions right in the design documents. I'll throw a link up to that too.
Really suggest that LinkedIn profile,
People have done
hire
some-
me to work on it.
People have done some weird stuff with that, right?
It'd be nice. I think, like you were saying, there's a lot of animosity within the community of us versus them and them versus us. And I think we're all trying to do the same thing, right? We're trying to make better apps in the web. And so I think harassing Google isn't going to make them open up more channels of communication for us to communicate with them. So I think just be cool and let them know what you think. So this brings up something that I've been pretty interested in this reading was one-way versus two-way binding, and the discussion, like we talked with Igor's talk, of taking away two-way binding. And so I wanted to kind of pull the room on how they feel about that, because for me personally, two-way binding was one of the things that drew me to Angular. I thought was, yeah, it's very cool, right? And so now I guess there's a lot of debate going on whether that's the right route to go.
Right, going back to that Into Europe video with Igor, he was pinned on it. He's like, so we've heard you guys are thinking about getting rid of two-way binding for Angular. What's your thoughts? He's like, basically like this is like, it's not decided yet, but we are definitely considering it because some of the frameworks like React.js, was the Flex framework or something like that, they've gone back to one-way binding, and it's actually been faster and more performant, and like we're looking at it, but don't pin us with anything yet. So
what are they suggesting then?
just going back to one-way binding.
But like, how do you?
I think it's not necessarily just straightforward, just going back to one-way binding. In the reading that I did, they didn't really offer up a better solution. They basically discussed a lot of the hiccups with two-way binding, but that's why I'm personally not sold that we need to get rid of it until we have whatever the next step is.
Well, did they offer like a performance metric of like one-way versus two-way? Like I'm assuming that's like the reason why they're considering.
Doesn't every two-way binding require a watch?
Yeah, I mean that's.
And that's your issue.
But I think they're talking about getting rid of watches as well.
So they have the object observe.
Yeah, see, that's, the observables are gonna really do it. Most of it.
Define comparisons to React to Angular, kind of see a difference.
But I look at React and I'm like, oh, how much longer does it take me to write freaking React? And they're like, oh my gosh, I have a table with a million rows in it.
I definitely say keep your eyes on it. There's a lot more to come in this.
Yeah, they haven't put a lot out there as far as content, but basically that's on the chopping block, and it's a possibility that's going to be cut for 2.0. So
well, I guess the question is like, what's their reasonings for doing that? Have they discussed
performance? Too many calls and watches. Too many things firing, going across the channel too many times, and wanting to control that more and having that be a more precise system. But again, I wasn't satisfied with the information I was given. Right. Because to me, it was like, whoa, this is something that I signed on for Angular, and why are we going away from that? And
it's probably why they're putting it under the magnifying glass too, and not just like, oh yeah, let's just go straight back. They're like, there's obviously a huge discussion about it, and more picking apart that needs to be done before they're like, that's ditched two-way binding.
I think there was some.
Let's do one-way binding in 1.3. That's right. Yeah, so I think we did double colons for example.
Right.
Yeah, I think so like, you have a table of all your states and stuff. You don't want to be going back every time somebody changes something and have a watch or go back and double check it. And so it's a low binding. And then just use it.
yeah, very cool.
That's why they're different too.
So it's a little bit hard to say whether I think what I think about it without some alternative.
Right.
What is? Like,
Yeah, if it was an A versus a B, they can go, here's the benefits, the good and the bad of both sides. But a lot of what they're throwing out there is just we're unhappy with it. We're looking at alternatives. We're looking at how other frameworks are doing. I think they did that with a lot of issues they were having in Angular with like the new router they wrote for 2.0 is what are the problems and what's everybody else doing? And let's find the best bits of everything. And let's make that's kind of the brainstorming path they're taking for creating this 2.0. Directives. Like we were saying, directives were a painful part for me personally, the learning curve of 1.0 and in 2.0. It's looking like it's going down a similar path for me personally, but so they're breaking out into 3 different types of directives. There's component, decorator, and template. I've done a decent amount of reading these, but I'm still trying to completely wrap my head around. So like Dale was talking about earlier, you're asking about the separation priorities. The component directive is going to create a custom component. Then you can create custom elements There's also some other really cool stuff in there that you can do kind of on the borders that I'm still not fully wrapping my head around how that's working. But the main piece of that is creating those custom elements that is going to open a lot of cool stuff up.
I remember the link was going away. Can you comment on that? The link function?
Oh, yeah, well, the directive definition of it is going away.
Yeah.
Yep.
So that's not only link, compile, and everything around it.
So again, the decorator decorates existing HTML with additional behavior examples. NG show. Template directive, transform HTML reusable template. The director, author can control when and how the template is instantiated and inserted into the DOM. And if you guys didn't fully understand that with me just reading the definition off the wall, there is a lot of really good examples where he goes into ng-if and ng-show and kind of breaks out how those are operating. And it gives you a kind of, using your prior knowledge to how they're going, it gives you some sort of base. So like, okay, I understand how this works, and then this is how they're implementing it. So I definitely suggest taking a look at Eisenberg's write-up and looking at his examples for some of the previous NG stuff that he's writing with these new directives. And it kind of has some sort of, at least for a developer's mind, migration. Okay, this is how we're kind of doing it, and this is how this is what we're heading. That brings us to the router. So some information about the router for 2.0. It includes everything that you'd expect. I'm not going to rattle off everything, but all the basic stuff. There's no big wide open holes that they're missing, stuff they're cutting, or anything crazy there. One thing that I was really interested in reading about was child routers. One issue that we've had, I'm sure a lot of dev shops have had, is the global router kind of running the entire app. And what they're talking about now is having child routers where you can have as many routers as you have controllers even, and you can drop those into other apps and then just having them wired up at the root level, which kind of opens up the door, has my mind going wild for the possibilities of just processes like build it, put it on GitHub, share it with the Angular community. So somebody does one portion and you can now implement that into another and plug it right in via the routes. So I think that's going to open up new doors for Angular development. Still haven't fully wrapped my head around everything that's going on there, but I think breaking that apart and not having one giant router is going to have big benefits.
And one thing cool about that, like we mentioned earlier, is like they are porting this back to 1.3, so even if you don't jump right into 2.0, you can still play around with this cool stuff.
Yeah,
So is child routers available now or no?
No, I don't think
They're still working on it.
Yeah, they're planning on backporting it, but the backport isn't happening yet.
So when they do backport it, you get the sense they will keep that backport in sync with what's going on in the world.
I get that sense.
That's what I.
In other words, you can prepare for 2.0 by adopting some of these new things that you're going to do.
That's the feeling I get.
That's a good way to look at it, yeah.
The router,
No router.
Well, it sounded like he was pretty close to done when he was writing this up, so we'll hope he got a good chunk of his knowledge out before you went off to other things. Another thing I'm excited about reading was screen activation. So this is around, you have a client, they have a HTML form, filling stuff out, partially filled out, and then are you sure you want to leave? Yeah, you haven't submitted anything, you've made changes, and so now we're able to interrupt the navigation process, which interests me in a couple of different ways. I mean, with single page apps, the navigation, refresh back, being able to explicitly hook into those sounds very interesting to me, and also from a security standpoint, being able to lock down different parts of your app. Now, technically, how that's all going to happen, I still I'm trying to fully understand, but the fact that this is going to be available with 2.0 makes me think about other solutions for things that we're doing now for role-based stuff and security-based stuff, and new ways that we can accomplish that and make single-page apps better with that hook into those features. So I was excited about that.
Right, so yeah, this is straight from the horse's mouth, basically. They don't have solid like deadlines for these, but they're talking about NGConf is on March 5th. They're talking about having 1.4 ready by that time. And this is also from NG Europe, so this is like a floating deadline. 2.0 is expected at the end of the year, but more realistically, 26.
Also to
They
note,
got a lot of development to do.
they do,
A
yeah.
lot of work.
Also note, NGConf is just going to be called Conf now. They're taking the NG off that as well. So, so I think as far as people have a bone to pick with Google, NGConf guys got to be top of the list.
We'll put all these links on the meetup page.
Yep, we will make all these slides available. This YouTube link is to the NG Europe talk. We will put a label in there. Hopefully we'll update this link as well. I got double copy and paste. We'll get those links cleaned up. Definitely check it out. Definitely check out Igor's talk in NG Europe. It's funny, they do kind of a comedy bit. It's an interesting talk versus some of the more vanilla and the other talks. They have kind of a bit to it. And then also Eisenberg Effect, the write-up that he has done is very extensive and interesting just with his relationship with the Google team. He also did a talk at OreDev. It's a little under an hour long, but also talking about similar stuff that worth checking out. And we've got the blog, AngularJS, and other links in the
No. I'm kind of curious to see what other people think. Like, I saw a lot of pissed off developers about this starting from scratch. What do you guys think? I think
So
it's cool.
what is it? What were they mad about? Were they mad about just syntax stuff? Like
They're mad that they just wrote full apps in Angular 1x, and now there's not a clean path. So if they want to do 2x, they have to start from scratch.
I think the migration path
Which
is
the-
the big, you know what I mean? I think if there
Yeah.
was the way that they're doing it, that's at least the feeling that I'm getting is they're doing the whole rewrite and then doing the migration.
And then they got Brad Green, like the Angular guy, saying we're going to support for 1 to 2 years. So it's like they're kind of pissed about diving into new technology, and then they're not going to support it forever.
I mean, I felt this way though when I was writing VB and then I go to Java. I was really pissed off, because they didn't preserve that VB syntax. I mean, really, if I'd have had,
Yeah, we were having this similar conversation today. It's like, these are web developers complaining about change?
That was my
I don't
argument.
know
Like,
what kind of stuff everybody else is working with, but it kind of changes a lot.
I mean, the big thing that I saw is that I felt like Angular was the first path. The thing that I saw was a holy crap, these guys are really good at awesome job.
yeah, absolutely.
It was the thing that pointed me towards directives and controllers and the whole thought process behind it. So I'm okay with trusting the team to do it.
Yep.
Because I've got so much benefit from it already. So I feel like it's going to be.
I agree. I think that's the vibe that I've got as well, is they have the best intentions and they're doing everything they can to make the best product
But
possible.
do they talk about how much of these changes are more just for the fact that Google needs these changes, kind of thing?
Not at all.
I haven't seen
I
that
haven't
yet.
mentioned that at all. I haven't heard that.
Well,
I mean,
I'm
they're
sure
talking mostly about, going back to the beginning of the slide,
Yeah.
mobile performance and stuff like that. But no, they haven't made a point to broadcast that they're doing it for purely narcissistic reasons.
Oh, no, anything I can get from, behaving like Google.
Yeah, it's bad,
Cool with that.
bad PR, right? That's what I was saying. It's like they've got 1,600 internal apps. Even if they have no other desires to do it, they at least have to do something with those 1,600 apps. So with the promise of the 1.5 to 2 years and that happening, I think they're doing the right thing and they're doing it in the best way that they can.
You get a sense in the migration that there will be tools to help do that, or will it just be a very good roadmap?
As of right now, the migration Sasquatch.
Yeah,
It's out there. I've just never seen it or know exactly what it's going to be like when we do see it.
I mean, until they have an actual product, there's
Yeah.
nothing to migrate.
Exactly. Yeah. I was thinking.
So it's kind of silly that when people argue there's no migration time, well, there's no product either. There's a bunch of design docs and some ideas. So
It's a very good point. And even the docs and even the ideas are changing all the time. Like I was saying, like if we have general consensus, go out there and tell them that you feel a certain way because things are changing. Things are not, the concrete is not dry on 2.0 for sure. There's definitely, there's time for input and value input because we will end up using it. And if we have problems with it.
So it seems a little bit like 1.4 is going to be their trial balloon. They can put some things out there so they can get some feedback. Maybe as much as backporting, it's going to be the initial.
I would agree with that statement.
But there's no ad script 1.4 though.
The only thing, to my knowledge, being backported is the router. Everything else is going to it.
And that could even change.
You think are they getting anything for the atmosphere 6 that's coming out of June? You think they're doing something with that in the 6?
Yes.
For 1X?
So
Are they relying on the S6 being finalized
for
for 2.0?
For 2.0, yes,
Completely.
the ad script stuff is all based on ES6.
They're waiting for that.
They're using it right
Yeah.
now. It's just not standardized.
So what do you think the feedback would have been if they had posted the design and HTML syntax and everything for 1.0 to the overall group? You know, the same number of developers. Do you think they would have had the same kind of, you know, I'm wondering.
I would say
if
no, just in the sense of like no one knew what the hell it was.
no one knew. But even when it came out, I heard a lot of like, oh, it's just embedding Java and DOM, and we know better than that.
But there was not. I don't think there was a lot of people like like married to it at that point, so they didn't really give a crap. Now there's so many people married to it. They're like, whoa, whoa, whoa.
I don't know, because I don't even feel like, I feel like a lot of the just generic bitching that I've read is just that. Just generic bitching. There's not a whole lot of clear, concise, there's like a, hey, you're rattling my cage, and I don't like that, bro. But there's not a lot of good arguments going on, or just, like I'm saying, just make your point. If you have, like he was saying 133, there's a lot of discussion. And I think part of it is a snowball effect of people start seeing other people complain about it, and they kind of want to get on that bandwagon.
I think people might be a little nervous too that they're gonna just end up doing the same thing again.
True, yeah. I mean, people have kind of a volatile history of supporting things, and they're kind of taking.
I mean, I've built the same app 3 times now, so.
That's that goes back to our argument.
4 times the charge.
That goes back to our argument of your the website's changing.
Yeah, it's
Only web development.
you want
Yeah, go back to 4.
yeah, go back to Fortran insurance or something. This is not the place for you.
Like one guy in the NG Europe video, one comment was like, "Today marks the day that I quit web development." I'm like, good, leave.
Yeah, free up some space, they'll leave the job, and you get back in.
Right. Yeah, 3 days. Before.
Cool. Thanks, guys.
Thank you. Okay, so now we will do Dale's current gig, the Presitron.
There's a new version of the
Only is good
Presitron
one.
coming out.
Very serious, nice dude.
And I'll ask you guys what you think. It's going to require you to log
Dale, I think by
Initial
this point,
reaction, that's
we will
fine.
follow you into battle.
Yeah, my gut reaction was cool. Whatever.
We go authenticate through Meetup.
I've come to other logging and stuff.
in.
One more is not gonna
Well,
work.
it's a social network.
Oh, it's tied
It's
in?
all a lot.
Okay.
Okay, so first I need our Meetup API key, correct?
Yeah, you can just click on the link there. And then see where it says, just click there.
Station, I don't know.
We're gonna find out.
Now it's like 2 minutes.
I guess.
It is bigger than what.
Yeah, no, that's good. That's how it usually is, Joel.
Yeah. Cool. I didn't-
Fired up.
And then we need the string
Just the
of
last
numbers.
number. Just the.
So that's gonna be up an event ID. And then yeah.
You're adding the shame feature?
Yes! Thank you, Dale.
We just had to, I don't know if that API
Just unlock it, dude. Nobody's gonna remember that.
Is it live streaming?
YouTube remembers.
can work. Shoot.
All right.
What do you want me to do?
There we go.
There we go. So this is Dale's Prizatron that he was nice enough to make for us and any other meetup across the world that would like to donate to him.
Pretty much, if you click about, okay.
So if you go to the About section, there's this little feature.
This is the most important feature,
Yeah.
and nobody has ever used it.
Oh.
Which is-
Dale is on
Shame.
first income right now.
Shame on all of you.
That's right. Right. All these people that did stuff.
There's a new feature request. Have the donate button link up to your probability.
Yeah. Actually, I like that. You
Yeah,
get a
start
weighted
bumping up, yeah.
Steve.
Go Steve. Steve here.
Uh-oh.
Shame. Shame, Steve. I just had to clear out the shame people from because we've been building them up too much. I had to bring it back down. I like to start things off with shame people. I will end it with shame people though.
Just for an overview, we have not IntelliJ, but JetBrains license, year subscription, the front end masters, and the little site thing. There we go.
You guys can probably give away the front end masters to a clip because Mark gave you a lot of them.
So we can pick 4 winners.
Sura.
Surya?
Shame.
Oh, God.
I don't blame you.
That was here.
Down. I saw that.
Do it. Sorry.
All right.
Dude, what do you want? JetBrains, front end masters, or flow site? And then if you want an overview of what JetBrains, you have JetBrains project now.
We have them
products
all
now?
listed.
Okay, so they have one called WebStorm that's really cool for doing like front end work.
It's slick.
Yeah, so we'll give you
All right, stop by and give me your email address when you set up.
the
Brian. Brian's always here. Brian gets a pass. All right. He always shows up.
Awesome. All right, so you get front end masters.
I don't know, we can't verify that.
So front end masters, year subscription. It's like basically a bunch of videos.
Yeah, put on by local guy Mark Vansky. Gets a bunch of really good talent, nationwide, worldwide. It's a really good video learning series. It's put together in a really good way.
A lot of good front end videos up there. Okay. So we need your email address before we do. And then so we got one more front end and the portal site.
Damn. You got your options between front end masters, which is a year sub, and portal site, which is a month sub.
It's a good value. It's
I would
like,
go with that one.
I think normal price for front end masters is like $30 a month, 34.
Yeah,
So it's a really
Up
good
to a
value.
year.
for a
It's a
year.
really cool site. They do a really good job.
They got some Angular videos. I went on there a couple weeks ago and was watching their Angular videos, and they do a really good job.
Yeah, they do in-house sessions and remote viewing. I've watched stuff remotely, and Will actually was mediating that one. And they just do a really good job of, if you're not right in the area, you're still treated as a first-class citizen as far as being there, because sometimes you're just watching the screen, you feel like you're not involved with the topic at all, or asking questions and stuff, and Mark's doing a really good job of doing that, so.
Yeah, we got your email address, so. Yeah, we're good to go on that.
Jack? Yes.
There you go.
Yeah, what's the plural site thing?
It is a similar site to Front End Masters. It's a month free. Actually, some of the Front End Master stuff have ended up on Pluralsight, but it's a web learning, video learning for different development stuff. That we will actually have a card for you here that we can give you.
Yeah, so I can grab those for you.
They have a ton of content because they've been around for a long time.
They were one of the top sponsors for Into Europe.
Yeah, we saw them in here. I personally haven't.
They also bought
stuff on there.
Digital, some, if you do gaming, they have a switch first and digital tutors too.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I'll grab that card before you leave.
Very cool. And real quick, before I forget, there was some interest in NG Extended. Has anybody looked into that? NG Conf this year. Do you have anybody going? NG Conf?
Just me? The ticket site was pretty nasty, but somebody else went.
Will fought his way through the ticket site.
I was right there.
You were on top
I'm
of
on
that.
top. So he was.
He was fresh like a boss.
Will's been on top since day one. So if for the 100% rest of you that aren't going to NGCon, they're trying to put on this thing called NG Extended, which is viewing parties. It's on that Thursday and Friday, March 5th and 6th. So I just wanted to put it out there if it's something the community would be interested in. I know it's during the week. I don't know what you guys' schedules are like. If that's something that you'd be interested in, we would have an office and staff, but we could lock off this room to get, I don't know if we could do quite the size that we do for the meetups. Maybe if we reorient a different way, because we're going to be in here for like 2 days watching MDConf live stream. But if that's something you guys would be into and you want us to push that ahead, definitely let John and I know, and we can.
Yeah, you get to watch NG Conf and it's 90-inch, so.
It's a pretty slick TV.
Pretty cool.
So as far as TVs to watch on, this will be a pretty cool one.
Where's NGCon? Which time zone?
It is in Utah.
Utah. Oh,
So it's a 1 hour time. Yeah. So it's always
No, that is it.
so yeah, definitely let us know if that's something you're interested in. That's it.
Yeah, you can just comment on our meetup site if you're interested. We're trying to just gauge if people actually come if we did do NG Extend, so.
Yeah, do some work on our part, so we want to make sure.
We'll put
there's
up a poll
community
on
interest.
this. We'll
Yeah,
put it on the meetup site, and then feedback would be, that's so often, so we can see if it's actually something people want.
All right, thank you, everybody.
So it'll be like a classroom. Get a cheer picture on there.
Well, you can do. Oh, yeah, you can donate.
There you go. I like it. Probably one or two. Yeah. Everybody, hey, everybody.
Oh, one announcement.
Quick second, one more announcement before everyone goes.
We've got, I run the Google Developer Group, Google Developing Group Twin Cities. We've got our big developer fest, March 21st, devfest.mn.
We'll throw a link up on our meetup for you.
Yeah.
Thanks, Lloyd.
All right, thanks, everybody.
Okay. I'm not worried about it. I figure
You know what that is, yeah.
It's actually.
Good luck, dude.
Congratulations on the new date.
Yeah.
Maybe next week.
Maybe next week we should have.
Yeah, we'll see.
If you're interested, you just want to chat, we'll talk about your record.
Yeah,
So we're really good at
Those are April and April. Yes.
No, it's totally volunteer, you got one Saturday. You don't really need to sign up for some of the prizes at the end of it. Because it's volunteer, you copy together, so pros and gravel will be short, but things usually like 4, 5, 6 tracks through. And you
They
can,
did.
oh yeah,
Some are really.
anything by like. All together.
Congratulations.
I've been thinking about doing a presentation.
Yeah. And it's live coding and stuff, so.
Wi-Fi sucks though. That's one thing I hate about
It is terrible on you.
It's on the guest.
Unless you're not on the guest account, here's a student. But yeah, it's, I think I've done 12 code camps now. On the road.
I've only done the last, I did, last fall. I did fun is I go to Canada every October, like 2-3 weeks.
So you missed that one.
And so they keep landing right up on time, I'm flying out.
Okay.
So it's like,
Yeah,
go to
this
Canada, Cancun.
This year, and they've been skipping the April one, and October, 2 years. So this year now it's up to April. It's good stuff, it's good tech vitality, you know, you'll see it a little, sometimes it's on level, but if you don't know the technology, you know, like, they've had some DevOps talks on Puppet. Tmux is now the one I hope Hogan does again.
Yeah, it's hard to keep up with everything, and I always think when you catch somebody talking about, at least I get some.
Then you can become conversationally literate about it.
At least you kind of know what they're talking about.
That's right, all good. Okay.
This is what you can do in a week. I got a customer, hopefully I have a customer. And I think I'm going. I'm killing myself. See if that helps. But anyway, there's one thing that's really kind of groups to get you. We're actually always. What do you gotta do for y'all? I want to do more. I want to do more.
It's kind of feeling important too. We're about the same thing for 2+ years now, and it's not shit again. I'll tell you, I've been learning goal recently online. You know, it's like, no, yeah, that stuff. Yeah, that's the problem. Hey, what does it get something wrong? And I spent this couple of weeks getting everything converted over to call. It's like, okay, How much can I do to get down to the park? That's it. But I can build. Cool. Except I have a couple bugs in here, so I need to go back and spend some more time on it.
Yeah, you noticed today when I was, I built this all from, I don't know.
Yeah. Versus I know what's in my cook. You know, yeah.
Well, I want to take a look at our clock and, be a deal. It's a new company, yeah.
It's invisible.
I am.
Sneak up and back.
Yeah. I've seen stuff about that.
It is, it's in .NET.
Oh, I ain't got that.
You could have wrote something like, wow, and spring and hibernating and delegates and a whole bunch of connected stuff. It's like every instructor emails. It seems like so really, like when control the profession.
So that's a big plus. So using spring, it's like, come on.
Yeah, only 15. So we're doing a number of different things. We have project
I was gonna go up to it, I was like, I bet you're a .NET developer and you're a Rails developer.
What? What are those? What are those?
No, I could hear,
Are you fucking kidding me? I can't.
you should go fucking loosey goosey now here. Let's loose. Did you go for it? You go for it? Just did it full, dude. You just go this move? Whoa.
I don't wonder that was full now. I felt like it operated to wonder that was full. Why?
Didn't she specify the full dude?
I mean, usually it's just like, you know, you put your boxers on. Over that.
I'd like going like massage envy.
Going on. I did find a great site though. It was the best site ever. I mean, it's.
All I'm doing in my head is just open up.
Shit, dude, we're gonna have to ask for help with the chairs.
What?
We're gonna have to ask for help with the chairs.
Well, there wasn't that many to really carry. You know what I mean? We don't like wholesale those shit. Good night, everybody.
How do you stop?
I love it.